good friend Daniel. So pay attention. Daniel, you missed the party last night. It was so boring, but I'm glad you
About
got
there,
there.
but I have
This
something
people were
important.
so
Yeah.
slow, and the food's here.
Yeah, I have this.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty
what's going
important.
on?
I had lots of time to think and pray last night, and I came up with this new law, and I think you should look at it and put your stamp of approval on it.
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome.
Yeah, do you see that guy? He just, everything he wants, he just gets put into a new law. Like, come on. Why can't we be that cool?
Wow.
I mean, what's it about this time? Probably something super boring.
I'm sure.
Yep, just practical old Daniel. You know, I think it'd be kind of cool if we could get that job. I mean, second in command to the king, be able to just whip up any law that would, help us along. So, do you think there's any way that we could kind of get his job? I mean, it's not like he's gonna die anytime soon. What if we somehow got him fired? Like, what if we would just kind of help him lose his job, and then, he'd probably promote us, right? Do you have any grand ideas of how we could do that?
You could spy on him.
That's good. What if we spied on him all day? Got a list of all the stuff that he does that's wrong, or like, mean to a kid or something. Take it to the king, and he'd have no choice but just like demote him or throw him in jail, and then we can take his job. Okay. Let's do that. I think that sounds like a really, really great idea.
Nothing like reading the Bible.
Honestly,
Not doing much.
he's very boring. All he does is write laws, pray,
Drink coffee.
and drink coffee. If we take this to the king, he's going to be like, oh yeah, he's doing his job. What are we going to do? Unless, what if we made something that he does every day be wrong? What a great idea! Here, I'll let you write something up. That looks great. Let's take it to the king. Okay! King, live forever! King, he had this great idea. The people in your kingdom, they don't appreciate you like they could. You're such a wonderful king. You got a big crown, wonderful kingdom. So,
What do you want?
it's not necessarily what we want, it's what you want.
For you, sure it is.
Yeah, so this is our idea. The kingdom really should learn to appreciate you more. So what if for like 30 days, no one can pray to any god or any other person except for you? I mean, yeah, it's kind of a cool idea.
And if they don't, they get thrown behind.
Yes.
That would just really help everyone see how wonderful you are as a king.
Can you write this up?
Oh, we got it.
It's already ready.
Okay. There.
If you just stamp it.
Well, let me go show this. Yeah.
Nice.
He's not going to care. He's at home. He's not even here.
But
He's not going to care. And King, this is really going to help everyone see how amazing you are. I mean, why would Daniel have any disagreements with that? And if he did, is he truly your friend?
that's true. Okay.
Thank you, King. You will not be disappointed.
Better not.
He's totally going to be disappointed. All right, everyone, there's a new law in the kingdom.
You're welcome.
Come check it out.
I hear something about a new law. Any person who worships or prays to anyone besides the king for 30 days shall be cast into the den of lions. Oh dear. People that go in the den of lions, they never come back out alive. What should I do? I can't stop praying. I know, I should go pray about it.
Have you seen him do anything yet?
No, not yet.
Well, he doesn't seem to be praying. What? I can't see anything.
Yeah, backwards.
Oh. Hey, there he is. Do you think he's gonna pray? He definitely is.
He's praying.
Let's go, King. King Darius, look forever in the day. So, you're never gonna believe this, King. Someone already wrote your law.
All right, brand new one.
Yeah, the one we posted like 2 minutes ago.
Well, who is it? Who's that? Oh, is it Jonas?
You know, it's a good guess, but no.
Oh, well, who is it?
No, it was your friend Daniel, King. I mean, he must not be some friend because
No.
you can take a look. He's at his house.
There. Key, see. Are you sure he's not married to me?
Dear God, what should I do?
Clearly not in opposite direction.
That is true, yes. Should be facing this way.
Yep. So what are you gonna do, King? I mean, you're not gonna try to get out of it, are you? Because you did stand up with your shiny ring.
True. Well, let's do what you gotta do.
All right. Open up, Daniel. Daniel, you broke the law. You have to be thrown into the den of lions.
It's such a dark night out. There's only one star in the sky. The lions are quiet tonight, though. It must be full. The sun's coming up now. Should go check and see if he's alive. Daniel, are you alive? Hey, he's alive.
Long night.
How did you survive?
God sent an angel and shut the lion's mouth.
An angel? Are you
Yes.
serious?
Yes.
Wow. But what, the lions are trying to kill anybody, or how is that?
God is powerful.
He must be. Must be more powerful than I must be. That means he can make a new wall.
Yes, I already thought of
This
a
is
new wall. Got it, yeah, I got that all up here, ready to write it out.
Let's do this. What's
All of the kingdom must tremble and fear before God of Daniel, period. For he is the living God who shall reign forever, period.
very good? Yes. What's it on top of the wall?
Yeah, we can't have anybody read that whole wall. Because that is the whole skit, and the story of Daniel truly did happen. And God did send an angel and shut the lion's mouth, and they did not harm him. And the power of God was not only shown in the Bible times, and it is still shown today. And God is so very powerful. That is everything we have for you, and thank you for coming out. Whoever's going to come talk can come up next. This whoever wants to come talk first can come up and talk.
Figure if I do it first, I get it over with. All right. Well, good evening. Good to see you all here. I'm going to be talking about daycare. My day was Thursday, and then in with that, I'm going to be telling a story about two guys, Butchie and Jimmy. So my experience with daycare was just a little different than some of the other groups. Ryan, Darcy, Karen, Elizabeth, and I were on for daycare together, and we started the day. We weren't on duty at the beginning of the day, so we helped out in the kitchen and did dishes and whatever needed done until about 9 o'clock. Then we met Amy. She was the activities director, and we went to the blessing house, which is where the girls would have stayed in the basement, and the main floor was like for they called them their bed children and some of the more severely handicapped residents. So from the blessing house, we were going to go out to a cabin in the woods and just do some activities on the porch. So when we got there, Amy's like, "Okay, Jesse, you're in charge of Butchie and Jimmy." And I really hadn't had much contact with them before, and the contact I did have was not very pleasant. They didn't interact much with me. Butchie is about as tall as me, or maybe taller. If you just see him from a distance, he looks pretty normal. But if you try to interact with him, he can't talk. His one word is "ma," so he'll "ma," he can't talk. He just, if he wants something, he says that. And I don't know how old some of these people were. He was maybe in his 30s or 40s. He could walk around, but he couldn't do much other than that. And just part of his story, when he was a baby, he was normal. And so that's kind of the sad part about it. He was not taken care of. He was just given Gatorade to live on, is what they said, and not taken care of at all. His mom was a soap opera addict, is what the book said. So I was supposed to take him and Jimmy. Jimmy was shorter. His face, you could just tell he was special. His jaw did interesting things, like he could move it way in or way out. Back. So you could tell he was a little special, but he actually was pretty smart. He would sit over in the corner of the dining room, and he'd be doing paperwork. He would be writing out. He had really nice handwriting. He'd write out the other residents' names and stuff, I think from memory. One of the shirts he wore when we were there it said, "I'm Jimmy doing Jimmy things." So he couldn't always explain what he was doing, but yeah. And he was hard of hearing, so you'd talk to him, and he could, if you wanted to listen to you, he would. And he could read lips really well. So they said he had selective hearing, though. So back to the blessing house. We met out there about 9 o'clock, and I was supposed to get these two guys to a cabin in the woods, or close to the woods, about half a mile away. And they didn't want to follow me. So I wasn't sure how to get them there, and the rest of the group had things to do. So Jimmy started walking down the hill toward the main house, and I couldn't get him to stop. I tried to get in front of him, talk to him, and tell him we're not going there. But he just kept on going. He'd shake his head. And some of the staff even tried to stop him and get him pointed in the right direction. He wouldn't. So Amy's kind of a go-getter. She went down, really got in his face, and just told him how it was. And she explained to him that I didn't know where it was. I'd never been there before, and he had to show me. And after that, he was ready to go. So I grabbed his hand, and we just started walking. And it went better if I had a hold of him. And I was kind of concerned about Butchie, because he was there was two of them. I couldn't watch both of them, but he just followed us, so that worked out really well. So what we did for daycare, when we walked quite a ways, got to the cabin, and when we got there, everybody else was just waiting. They weren't in a hurry. They were just sitting around listening to music, and they had a Bluetooth speaker going with Baby Shark and other Baa Baa Black Sheep, all those songs, keeping them entertained. And then once we all got gathered, we did sing some more Bible songs, and we got to learn some new verses. We got to learn, so we knew the song, "Give me oil in my lamp, keep me burning, burning, burning." We got to sing, "Give me umption in my gumption, help me function, function, function." And "Give me gas for my Ford, keep me trucking for the Lord." After that, we had more of a scavenger hunt, and so Amy would just come up with things that we had to find, a stick as long as our arm, or three-leaf clover, or whatever. And so everyone had to do it. We all got involved and went and found sticks and leaves and things. So that kept us entertained for a while. And then we headed back to the main house and just sat around doing crafts, and we made like the perler bead crafts. So we were on duty from 9 to 2 o'clock, and then at 2 o'clock we went back to helping with the work projects. I went to help stain decks. So I kind of included this in Thursday. It was a big day, so we did daycare up until 2, stain decks, and then that night we had a party at Dawn's house, which is down the street. And then that night, my skit group, which was kind of like the group that was up here, did a skit before they went to bed that night. So it was a pretty full day, but we had a lot of fun. Thank you.
Well, I think they divided us up into just talking about different aspects of our trip, so you'll probably hear just kind of bits and pieces. So that we were split into different groups every day. So we all had a turn doing the daycare, and then we all had turns helping out with the work projects, and then us girls all got turns in the kitchen, which is what I was supposed to talk about. I got to help out for a couple more shifts just because I enjoyed it, and the one day, I think I switched with Bethany so she could do some sewing projects. So the kitchen was really intriguing to me. I had seen different industrial kitchens, or like, I had my expectations of like, it's probably like a nursing home setting where they do a lot of like bulk cooking and, serve them all. Like, it was still served kind of cafeteria style where they plated plates and gave them each to each person. But everything there was pretty much made from scratch. Like, they would get, obviously, like canned vegetables and stuff like that, but they had a fruit cellar in the basement that they had all their canned stuff that they would have groups come in and help can. And then this really blew me away, was that they cooked everything Trim Healthy Mama. And so I know a lot of people would know kind of what that diet was, but they did not use any sugar or flour. So it was like gluten-free, sugar-free. They used a lot of stevia, a lot of just different kinds of thickeners and stuff like that. And then the cook there, her name was Erla, she was always flying around doing something. And she had this huge tub of sourdough starter, and she made all of their bread and buns, anything that had bread in it, rolls or anything, she made herself out of sourdough. So that was pretty cool. She would often do a big batch and then freeze it so that she wouldn't have to do buns for a while, then she'd do bread or something like that. The one day that I helped in the kitchen, we canned tomatoes, and we did a big tub of those. I think they cooked them a couple different days and did canning. The one day, we did about 45 quarts of tomato soup. So that was pretty fun. We cooked them, and then we ground them outside into the juice, and then the mess was outside, so that was really handy. And then, like, those huge totes, like, that are about this deep and, like, really long. We did one of those of peppers that was heaped full, and we had to cut them, wash them, and dice them into little diced peppers, and then bag them. and then they put them in the freezer. They'd get them out to put in their casseroles or whatever. And I was thinking, you know, like, wow, like this is a lot of peppers. Like we did peppers and peppers and peppers, and some of their volunteers were helping us, and I was thinking, you know, wow, like this is a lot. And she just offhandedly made the comment like, oh, I'm so glad it's just one tote. So with the last group, I think we did about 8 of these. And I was like, whoa, like, and sure enough, I went out to their freezer, and there was just, I mean, stacks of bags of peppers. So they did a lot of food through there. And like, they would have groups of like girls or ladies come in and just do canning. Like their canner room was like really, really stocked with stuff. So they did cook the THM diet for us for the first couple days, and I think that they realized that some of us weren't super excited about eating that way. So about halfway through the week, they switched and started cooking us a little bit more regular meals. But yeah, it was really good, like really home-style food, so that was pretty cool. An example of that was the one night they had lasagna, and they made us regular lasagna, and then for the residents there, they had lasagna with no noodles, and then they put it on top of fried rice. So they kind of had their variations that they would do. And one of the days, the cook was really busy, so they had me make a couple meals to serve the Blessing House residents. And that was really fun. I think that was one of my favorite days. They have a lot of their basic meal ingredients in the freezer, so she had like hamburger fried, sausage fried, rice cooked, and some of that stuff was what we were helping them with throughout the week. Like she would have us, you know, cook a bunch of rice and bag it up and put it in the freezer, and that just made her work a lot easier. So it honestly didn't take much work to like put together something, you know, if you pulled stuff from the freezer or refrigerator and then put it into a casserole. So yeah, I really enjoy the work there in the kitchen. And then I was also supposed to share about one of my favorite residents, and I couldn't decide on just one. So there are these sisters that followed me around a lot. And it started actually the very first day on Sunday. I was sitting beside Mom, actually, and this lady comes in, and I didn't know if she was staff, and I quickly figured out that she was probably one of the residents, because she comes right up and was like, I would like to sit in between you guys if that's okay. And just like, I mean, just makes herself at home. And I was like, whoa, okay, like, you know, super friendly people, you know, that's fine. And she was so nice, and then it became a thing that her and her sister, Renee, it was Connie and Renee, and they wanted to sit beside me for every meal. And so every meal they would come sit beside me, and it was kind of a unique experience because it was like Renee especially was more handicapped, and so she was a very messy eater. And sometimes it really grossed me out to eat with her. And so they always had the volunteers go first and then the residents. And so I would get my food and I would eat it as fast as I could so that I could be done eating and just be able to, you know, kind of not like look away and not really still be eating while she was eating. But anyways, and then also they were both really sweet. They liked to shorten people's names. So Connie was going around giving everyone nicknames, even if their names are already short. So I became Darce. And I think they reminded me every time they said it that you said it was okay if we shorten your name. Like, yeah, it's fine. You know, and then the next day, good morning, Darce. Remember you said it was okay that we shorten your name? I was like, yeah, that's fine. But they were a lot of fun. Like, they were really sweet. I also wanted to mention Medina. She was a blind girl, and she would have been, I think she told me that she's 95% blind, and she has been since she was about 7. She didn't really go into detail about what had happened, to me anyways. And she's also crippled, so she can't walk without crutches. And when she does walk, she's very slow. Like, I mean, I could probably take 1 or 2 steps, and then I'd have to stop and wait for her to catch up. And I was in the group Jesse had mentioned, and they told me to take Medina out, and basically they said, don't help her at all, just tell her what direction to go. They didn't want me to hold on to her arm, they didn't want me to touch her at all, just tell her what direction to go. And I found out she was very picky about that. She said that she is still able to take care of herself and still able to walk, and so she didn't want anyone else to have to help her. And they had a golf cart that they went and took some of the other people that couldn't walk, and it was like, well, why aren't you like just gonna pick her up and take her? But she was very like, you know, she could still get around, and anyone there that could still get around, they really pushed to be able to take care of themselves and to walk where they needed to go. She was the one that wove the rugs. I'm not really going to get into that because I think Megan's talking to some about that, but this is the one that I got. And she would weave them, and then they would tell her what color she needed to do next. So she said that she could kind of see a little bit if she held something right up to, she had a little bit of sight in the corner of her eye, so if she held something, she said she could sometimes figure out what color it was supposed to be. But for the most part, they would tell her, okay, here's the next roll for you to use, and then she would do that. And that's kind of how she makes her money. She gets a large portion of each of the rug sales. And she did a lot. She really puts those rugs out. But one of the reasons why I wanted to mention her was because she was always so cheerful, and she was always thankful to God for her blessings. And one of the days, some of us girls, I don't remember who all it was, some of us girls were taking her up to the blessing house where she lived. And she's walking up this hill on gravel, and she keeps slipping, and she even fell the one day. And she made the comment that I am so blessed because I can still walk by myself, and I can still make rugs and make money. And she said that she doesn't consider herself handicapped. She said, I have some blind friends, and we write letters in Braille to each other, and she said, I'm just so blessed. And that really stuck out to me because I was like, I take my health and my life so much for granted. I take, just going to work every day and being able to function normally. I forget that that's a gift. And to them, they're thinking that, we are gifted the way that we are, and we are blessed. And also, what she thinks of as heaven is way different than how I view heaven. Because I think, oh, yay, I get to go to this cool, fun place. But to her, it's, I can go where I can see again, and I can go where I can run again. And that really stood out to me. Overall, I learned that God sees no handicap, and neither should we. And each person at Galilean is there because they can't live by themselves for various reasons. Yet each of them were able to feed another person because they could move their arms, or they got people drinks that couldn't walk, or they would hold plates for each other. And in the same way, each of us should also use our abilities to help each other through daily life and to encourage each other to be closer to God. Thank you.
Hello. I was supposed to talk about jean cutting. That was more than just a day. It was a large part of the week. They would get a lot of old jeans that they had donated, and they wanted jean squares cut to be used for quilt tops. And then they would make quilts and sell them at a quilt auction that they had, and that was a way for them to raise money to support the home there. I don't know all the amounts for sure. It's been a while, but they had, I think it was around 5 totes and a couple bags full of jeans that were donated. And they had people, I think we started Tuesday, and they had people cut off the tops of them, and so it's just the pant leg left, and then they kept those and saved them for other projects that they might use them for. And then the legs were cut into squares, and so they'd pass them to the next people, and they would cut 6-inch squares. And then those were passed to the next people, and they would cut 4-inch squares, and what couldn't be used was thrown away then. But that was a lot of fun. It was really tiring, and your hands got sore, but it was a whole new way to look at jeans. And often people were described as how many squares tall they were, or you would see a jacket and be like, oh wow, I wonder how many squares I could get out of that thing, or whatever. It was fun. We finished on Thursday, I think it was, and then started, afterwards they'd be sorted into colors, but we didn't do that. But then we started ripping sheets, and they had a whole bunch of sheets too. We didn't get near through all of them, but they would put them on a board, and then you cut 2-inch slits, or 2-inch wide strips, and then you cut them and rip them. And the residents loved to help rip because you get to pull them apart, and it made fun sounds, and they liked to help with that. And then afterwards you measure how long they all were, and then roll them together, and they would use those for the rugs that Darcy had shown. And so they'd later they would have people get the colors and like match the colors together to make a rug. And then we did that Thursday and Friday and then cleaned it all up and then left Saturday. But the resident I want to talk about was Rosie. She was my favorite one there. She was, I think she was in her 50s, somewhere around there, but she had the mentality of like a 3 or 4 year old something. But I met her Sunday and she came out and was like right away sat down, held my hand and was like all excited that we were there. And her thing, when she was a baby, she was found on a trash pile. I think was she from Haiti, Mom? Or something? I'm not sure. Anyway, she was found on a trash pile and she had lead poisoning. And so that kind of stunted her mentally. But she was super sweet and she liked to ask questions for you to ask her. Like she wouldn't talk to you and like carry a conversation, but she wanted you to ask her questions. And her favorite ones were like, did Rosie get up this morning? And so you'd ask her and she'd be like, yes, and get all embarrassed that you'd asked her and everything. And she'd be like, where'd Rosie get her dress? And so you'd ask her and she'd be like, the closet. And like, where'd she get her shoes? And like, she loved that. She was named the greeter for the home because she loved new people and she was super, super friendly. And anytime new people would come to the house, she would go running out as fast as she could and give you a hug and give you a pop on the hand. She would take it and put it up to her mouth and make a little pop somewhere in her mouth and just smile ear to ear. And anyway, she was my favorite person and a lot of fun. And that's all I have.
So one of the things that we helped with at the very start of the week was organizing and cleaning out a warehouse. They had a whole lot of stuff that they had in there. You could pretty much just find a path to walk around. They had a lot of wipes and different stuff in there that we had to clear out. Some of the stuff we took down to a different building. Some of the stuff we took off to, I guess you could call it another sort of mission that was down there. We loaded a lot of the materials into some of the trailers that we took down, and we took them off to, I don't remember what it was called, but I think it was like some center for babies, and we had some, they pretty much took everything that we brought along because I knew they gave different stuff away just to help families in the area, period. But yeah, we cleaned out a bunch of that. They had a small room in there in the warehouse where they were storing some of their, I can't think of the name, but basically wheelchairs, self-driven wheelchairs or electric wheelchairs type thing. And so he took a bunch of that stuff out and put them in a different area. And I know a couple guys, I didn't really help with that, but because I got out of that, thankfully. But a couple guys had to paint and painted that white and everything. And I decided to go off and help unload the trailers, which I found much more preferable. One of my most favorite people there was one of the helpers. His name was Logan Schultz, and I found him to be a rather inspirational character considering that he was close to my age and living down there helping out with a lot of the different things that went along. He was one of the people we went to when we needed something to do, just to find out. He instructed us, and we were also probably, I was told, one of the first groups that he had to do, at least of that size. So the fact that he handled us as well as he did and was able to find things to do, which they were not a shortage of, was quite incredible and inspiring to me. The fact that he was willing to make a commitment at that age to do that and possibly do that for a large part of his life is something that I find really incredible. He was a great character to hang out with. Definitely had a redneck side to him. And he really inspired me just to come home and think about what I'm doing with my life as far as with faith and how I'm truly helping the kingdom of the Lord.
So I was supposed to talk about all the staining we did. We did about 8 porches, and one of them was in the Blessing House, and 2 of them were on the Joshua House, where all the guys slept, and then girls' dorm, which is one below the chapel, and then 3 at the main house. So we stripped a bunch of picnic tables and restained them. And I took apart a porch swing then I put it back together and put it back up. And we had to go into the town a lot to get stain if we ran out of stain, and get different parts like sander belts and sandpaper. So that's about all we did, and that's all.
Okay. I enjoyed all the things I did while I was down at Galilean Homes. One day, I helped clean out the warehouse. 2 days down in the cabin and sing songs and do a little treasure hunt. While we were taking them down, Jesse and Ryan had Jimmy. All of a sudden, Jimmy ran off. I ran after him and finally caught up to him and told him we were going to the cabin. He said no. And ran to the bathroom and locked himself there. Jesse waited for him and finally caught up with the others and went to the cabin. I will tell you more about some of the residents in daycare. Jimmy, he does his own thing. He has a shirt that says, "I'm Jimmy, just doing Jimmy things." Olivia, she likes doing beads for crafts. She showed me a picture of her whole family. They couldn't take care of her, so that's how she came to Galilean Homes. Butch, he was quiet and didn't talk much. James, he had a doll that he called Adam, and it was his baby, and he took the doll wherever he went. Rosie, when we walked through the door, she would come up to you and give you a hug. She was loved by everyone. I learned that people like that can be a joy in people's lives.
So while we were there, me and Curtis and Jesse, they had a new girls' dorm, or they had an old building they had gutted, and it was going to be their new girls' dorm, and so they had a roof there. It was over, I forget how big it was. It was pretty small, but there was a couple holes in the metal, so we had to tear off the purlins that were rotted. Those are like the boards that go on top of the trusses for the metal to go on. And we replaced those, and then we took the metal off because it had like they put nasty tar on it or something to try to cover up the holes. So we replaced the metal, and then I can't remember what we did after that. But anyway, so there was a resident there named George. I think Reagan's going to talk about him a little bit. But so they had a little shed there. I replaced 2 skylights on, and I didn't have my snips along, so I was trying to cut the plastic with a knife, and the edge of the metal caught my finger and sliced it really bad, so I was going to get a Band-Aid for it. And George, he came out of the house, and he saw my cut, and he's like, "Oh, do you need a Band-Aid?" And I was like, "Yeah." So he went in there and got me a Band-Aid, and that showed me that handicapped people are a lot smarter than we think they are. So that really showed me that, yeah, we should maybe think different about them.
All right, I think that's everybody that was going to talk. I really want you to come and talk about George, Reagan. You want to do it quick? Huh?
Here's a slideshow.
Yeah, there is. So I guess if you want to start the slideshow now, and then if you guys have questions, I don't know, we'll let the slideshow run through, and then you can ask questions. Any of the youth will answer for you.
wheelchair. I spilled my drinks on her. Cheyenne couldn't move her arms to wipe herself up. And Larissa was mute, but so she couldn't laugh or say anything, but she was shaking. And then we were all laughing really hard to clean ourselves up.
Interesting dynamic to the awareness supper was that some of the residents came out and watched. And so it's like, we were all laughing and, having fun with it, but it was also kind of didn't want to laugh either because some of them had those handicaps. And, they were laughing at us and having a good old time. Just if we thought about it, well, they live with this every day and we just had to have it for an hour or so. And that was Erla there on the right, the black dress. She was the cook.
Warehouse, a lot of the stuff.
There's Rosie.
Does anybody have any questions or anything? Want to ask about?
How many children do they have there?
I don't know. Does people went along? How many people are there?
There's 30 some. There's probably only 2 that you would call children, but they're all mentally functioning as children.
They did a respite care program, so the 2 children that were there were from families that they would normally live with, but they were having to take care of them over school break, or like if the family wanted to go on vacation, and it was something that they couldn't take a handicapped child along with them, they would take them there and have them care for them while they're gone.
Reagan, you really need to do an impersonation of George. They already here. You want to? Okay.
All right, well, I came here thinking I got out of everything, but turns out I was wrong. So we all really liked George. I guess you saw him. He was a lot of fun. He always kept you entertained. And sometimes, well, I forgot it now, but he would pull out his wallet and take a picture. That was his phone. And he'd say, take a picture with you, a selfie or something. He's like, "Oh, George." And he'd just go around, and he would get, so in his wallet, every time he took out the trash, he would get $1. So he would, I'm not sure how much he had, maybe $50. And one night we were doing our skit. We split up in groups and did a skit each night. And when it was my group's turn, and it was the prodigal son, prodigal son. And I was the prodigal son, and I said, "Well, I'm all out of money. I don't have any money left." And we were giving it for them, and George steps up and he said, "Adawa." He was gonna give me money. And I told him, "No, I can't." Anyway, take it. He was a lot of fun. He worked for the UPS. So he loved the UPS. They actually gave him a shirt, and he would wear that constantly. Seemed like every day he'd have his UPS shirt on. And at the end, I'm not sure, he might have prayed once or maybe twice before a meal. And his prayer was, "Thank you, thankful, amen. You go first." He always wanted us to go first. So we all really like George. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wanted to talk, didn't get a chance? Philip, you could tell about Levi. You want to? Go for it.
So I'm afraid I won't have much to say because for most of the mission trip I was very sick. I managed to get sick on Monday around lunchtime, so I missed out on most of the week except for the sanding and staining tables at the end. But the one thing I did do on Sunday, that was our free day. We didn't have any work to do that day. So instead we got to kind of sit around and do whatever we wanted. And I noticed that in their chapel, during the morning service, I had noticed that they had a large piano. So I went up there, and as you saw, I was playing the piano. But then I noticed that one of the, sort of a resident, but also helped with the other residents mostly, was a girl named Ashley, who's actually very smart. I found out that she appreciated music greatly, that she, like I do, occasionally will go someplace and we'll hear a song and we'll know what the song's title is. And it just showed me that even though they may seem to have difficulty hearing or may not quite comprehend, they really do comprehend it quite a lot. Then one other resident I had contact with was, when I began feeling better, I came down for a little bit during the day, and another resident was Levi. He was a little bit like Ashley. He comprehended enough that he was actually their school's basketball coach. And he had his guitar and he would strum away on it, and he had written a song, and he was basically strumming a chord for his song. He would just go through and he would sing and he would strum in time to it. And he had seen me playing the piano, and apparently he thought that I was really good at it, so he wondered if I could make up a tune for his song. So I tried doing it, and then afterwards I realized that all he could do on his guitar was strum. But finally we worked it out that instead of trying to play a tune on his guitar, instead I simply used the piano, tuned his guitar, and then he could strum it for everybody, and he was pretty happy about that. He played it for the group. I wasn't there, but from what I hear, he was pretty excited about his song. So, yeah.
Another resident, I'll share right quick from right here, Kyle, but another resident that no one talked about was Mary Beth. And she was in a wheelchair and was completely handicapped. Like, she was able to feed herself, but other than that, like, she couldn't really talk much or, and it seemed like she couldn't really communicate. But they said that she was one of the smartest residents there, and like often they would be, joking around while they were working and thinking that no one would really know what they were talking about, and they would look over and she would be laughing in her wheelchair, and they realized well, she had heard the joke and was laughing about it. And if you asked her a question, she could nod her head or shake her head or whatever. But she just loved boys, and they said that they would watch a movie with her. She would always pick her favorite guy character, and then when he would come on the screen, she would cheer. And so they said that whenever a guy would go get her for daycare, she was a lot more likely to go. And one day, Kyle pushed her into the main floor, and she was beaming from ear to ear. She was so fun.
Does anybody else have any questions about the residents or anything?
Did George really work for the UPS? Was that all made up?
I'm not sure if they ever got him to do anything. They had a check. They had a check on their gym wall from the UPS. Like they had donated money for the school. And he had a shirt and a hat, and I think he had a badge too. So.
One of the things that George did was whenever a UPS delivery would come, he'd go out and meet them and help them unload. And so all the drivers knew George, and that's kind of how we got connected.
A couple years ago, UPS workers came on his birthday and gave him that set of clothing, just because he's their parcel carrier.
He went into town one day with Dwayne, and he had a $5 bill, and he, about right away, he went in and he wanted it changed for 5 ones. Ones have George on it.
And every time we took a load to the clinic from the extra stuff from the warehouse, George always went along. And he had a little business card with a little lines drawn on the back, and that was his map. And so he knew how to get there. And he'd say, "Map, I lost." And Adam would be driving, he's like, "Get there soon." But he was a lot of fun. He was pretty much the face of the place. I guess if you have any other questions, there's food and cabin, ice cream. So if you have any other questions, just ask some of the youth, and I guess everybody will be dismissed. We'll head over there.